I've gotten a solid handful of questions about my custom AAP-01, especially as it hit the market after I custom painted it. So I'm going to kind of just give you a little run through of this little indoor primary that I've built and some of the modifications on the inside. First of all, obviously I did custom paint this. I just used a flat Rust-Oleum white on the outside. And then I went ahead and took some Posca markers. I'll link the Posca markers in the description below, as well as many of the parts that I can find for this in the description below. And I just carefully started doodling. I kind of went for like that cartoon-ish theme that you might see in like a video game or something like that. And I wanted it to almost look more like a 3D piece of paper. I don't really know how to explain that to you without, obviously, hopefully you seeing it. But a few of my favorite spots are like the trigger region, where like you can see like the trigger almost looks like it was drawn on, like this whole like trigger guard. And then a few of the small details, like the hot, where obviously the rounds would fire out if it was a real one. You know, we have to label stupid. It's the trademark, especially in case it ever gets moved on. Went for this cool little checkerboard symbol and your kill count. A couple of small things too, tiny details. Like the more you look at it, my goal is like you continue to find things. Like you got some spots in here. If you flip the back, you got a couple little dots on the back. And we did wind up circling around the outside. I got even fancy with it, and I started attacking the ribs. Obviously went with the some goofy lettering on there. Super cool. It was a fun little design. And then obviously I threw a flat Rust-Oleum clear coat on there just so that it can withstand some wear. It's kind of just a general design. Easiest way to explain to do this is just grab a Posca marker and start outlining any of the edges, ridges, and whatnot that you want to, and it'll slowly kind of just start to come together. Again, not every customization replica that I do looks great, but this is just one that I personally think does. Let's break it apart, check out the internals. It used to be upgraded. I since have downgraded actually a few parts just to make it simple and make sure things work the way I wanted it to. But there was a point in time where there was not a singular part inside of this AAP-01 that wasn't aftermarket. So, first off, I guess we'll work our way through the lower, and then we'll work into the upper. So, with the lower, anything that I don't talk about is completely stock. We did upgrade the trigger. I wanted to be able to adjust the trigger and get rid of that trigger safety. So I did something that had like a small screw to adjust the amount of trigger pull on the back, and then to adjust the amount of take up, also a screw in the back. I believe this is a TTI trigger. I could be wrong. I'm going to look it up, and I'll link it in the bottom of the description, so hopefully you could find this one for yourself. I really do like the flat design. It's got a nice like knurling on it. Feels comfortable in the hand, especially when you're in gloves. It's really noticeable. The edges definitely help. You feel where the trigger is, so that's nice. I did go out and upgrade all of the pins to steel pins. These are just like the rainbow coated ones. I upgraded some of the hardware too. These are all the marine grade steel screws. I upgraded the trigger box as well. I took out the safety just because it's a little hard to get in there with the upgraded trigger box, and I kind of just didn't want to look at it anymore. I like that you could peek through and see a little bit of gold. Looks a little more futuristic. So that's upgraded. The trigger bar is the CTM steel trigger bar. The hammer housing is totally the same, except I did upgrade all of the hammer pieces, whether it be your sear, your hammer, your roller. All of the parts in here are upgraded steel. These are the TTI upgrade ones. And then even your takedown button is also, I believe CTM does this one. It's also a metal one instead of plastic. Other than that, everything else in here that I can think of is totally stock. So we'll move on to the upper body. The upper is much less upgraded than you think. Just because I did have some challenges with some of the blowback units and some of the other upgrade parts. I have the, this is the most popular thing that I get a lot of comments on. This is just the ghost sight. It's a ghost ring sight for the AAP-01. It actually comes with a front sight also, but the front sight is designed to go on the front barrel. It can't fit here because it doesn't have a screw hole and a place for it to, that little pin to mount into. I might try and melt a screw hole in and see if we could just force it in, but I kind of like the way this looks. It's not great for aiming, but you know, keep it level and whatever's in your sight should hit. But you can always hit follow-up shots because it's airsoft. You can see where it's going. So I have the standard blowback unit in here. This is the one that comes with it. I had trouble with the CTM Tech lightweight one. It wasn't the best for me, so I wound up actually taking that one out. It was having trouble. It was doing like these random burst fires with my upgraded hammer system, and I don't really know why. The nozzle is stock. The inside of the nozzle is stock. I do have the upgraded nozzle stop, upgraded nozzle spring, return spring, and guide rod in there. The springs are still on the lighter side. I didn't want something that was totally heavy because I noticed the bolt pull was much harder, and I kind of like it to be nice and loose, nice and snappy. And I don't want the most recoil because it allows me to hit more direct follow-up shots as opposed to the replica bouncing around a little bit, especially when you're firing in single fire. And I do run the drum mag with this guy a lot of the time too, so it's already relatively heavy. I have the upgraded full auto switch on the inside too. Now, moving towards the front, this is actually a broken hop-up. Sadly, I take things apart and I tech them all the time, and I guess the threads on the inside of the hop-up that hold it into the upper were stripped now. I was lucky enough, crazy enough, to find someone online who was just selling the outside of the hop unit. So all the parts and screws and springs and stuff I already have. I'm just going to replace the outside of the hop unit where the screws are mounted in, so I can get a more, I guess, sturdy build, and it's not just barely holding in there, because after a few firing it started to wobble. So it's been retired since then, but I'll be upgrading that. I think it actually comes in a couple days. On the inside, now this is where I was having some trouble. If there's too much power going through this guy, because the barrel is so short, it's like this long, it overhops everything. Unless you want to use like 4s, and you don't want to because they're expensive. So I have to stick to the stock hop rubber because it's so soft, and the stock barrel to keep the FPS actually lower to allow the BBs to fly straight, which is so funny. So funny. Even with other hop units. The standard hop unit's a little easier to get it to shoot at a low enough FPS to keep the BB straight, but definitely not with the Action Army rotary hop. So the stock barrel and the stock rubber are in here. With the barrel, actually, I'm sorry, it's not the stock barrel, it's an upgraded barrel. It's the stock rubber. I think the barrel I have in here is a maple leaf. I did cut it myself a while ago. Got this little just thread protector that comes with it on. I cut it myself. Ignore this, but you can see on the inside I also had to ream the barrel too. It's not something that I recommend, especially if you're doing something with like long range that needs super accuracy, but I did manage to get it shooting straight. It was my first time reaming a barrel. You can just buy a barrel cutter and reamer off of Amazon for like 20 bucks. Again, I don't recommend doing that. Just buy short barrels, or, you know, if you're going to do it with a cheap barrel. And then I have the small upgraded, I guess, outer barrel replacement. It's just a super like stubby threads. They also have one that has a sight on the end of it, but I'm really into short guns. Like, size doesn't matter. So I decided to opt out of that one and go for this guy. Like, I kind of like the, it just looks like a little plug, if that makes sense. Like, it's just this little like pea shooter. I guess that's kind of everything that's on it. Like I said, this thing has seen some crazy renditions. This is actually, believe it or not, when I first got back in the hobby, my first AAP-01, and it's seen some things. It's had Narcos uppers on it. It's had Hunter barrels on it. It's had
all the internals upgraded, all back to normal upgrade, or the standard parts. I had the Fuku 2 upper on here. I turned it into a drill kit. I had everything. It's been painted twice. This thing has really seen it. I even wrote the entirety of Green Eggs and Ham on the first coat of this. So it's really seen it's been around for a hot minute. It's brand new painted, so sadly I'm still getting some white on everything, but it doesn't really matter. So yeah, go ahead, customize an AAP-01. It's a fantastic little piece. It's super fun to tech on. It's super easy, and in reality, if you don't make it as short as I did, extremely accurate as well. Thanks for watching.